Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
This is Lit, the show where we talk about what we write, how we write it, and why. I'm Jessica Fechter.
I'm Katrina Gold-Saito, and we are live on Facebook from San Francisco. The great thing about this is that you can interrupt us with, oh my gosh, someone just commented, with comments, like what just happened, but we're going to turn the sound off so you won't hear the blinging. And let's dig in.
All right.
So Jessica and I have been writing partners for 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Yes, I can't believe it.
It's really crazy.
So writing partners, I just want to wipe away any scrap of mystery or misunderstanding surrounding that term. A lot of times when people hear the words writing partner, they think, oh, it means you write together. But in our case, we actually don't. What it means is that we meet once a week, and 1 week Katrina brings whatever she's working on, another week I bring what I'm working on, and we dig in.
Yeah.
So we write together, but not together.
Right, together.
We're
but not
together, but we're
I
not
like
together. Yes.
that. Yeah. So should we tell them how we first met?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was telling Katrina yesterday as we were talking today about how a lot of times when people ask me, what are your top tips for writing, and I always say, well, find a writing partner. Katrina is my top tip for writing. And then I fall into the trap of having to try to explain why it is so amazing to work with a writing partner.
Yeah.
And I kind of, start, it's like when you try to describe what it's like when you're first falling in love, and you're like, it's just so great, which is completely not helpful at all. I kind of throw around these big expressions of love and awe for this working relationship. And I think, though, that there is, of course, that there was a path. There were kind of specific things that we fell into and didn't realize we were necessarily doing at the time in terms of learning how to work together. And we thought that today, by going into that, by figuring it out together here and trying to explain it in some actually coherent words that mean something, that might be helpful to people who might be also wanting to try to find someone to partner with to make their writing better.
Your writing soulmate.
Your writing soulmate.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been pretty incredible.
So how we met?
Yes. We met at a fake dinner party.
We did meet at a fake dinner party, this is true. But actually, before we met at the fake dinner party, it was 6 or 7 years? Mm-hmm. For 6 or 7 years, we have a mutual best friend named Megan, who told me when I was moving to Boston in 2005, Katrina was going to be there also for journalism graduate school. She said, you have to meet each other. And even though we trust our friend Megan deeply on all things, for some reason, it never happened. And these years went by. Katrina then moved to Tokyo.
Yeah, I was in Boston for like a year.
And then that was really hard to meet up. Then.
Right, it was harder when I was in Tokyo. I don't know why you didn't come to visit me.
And so it was only many years later when actually our guys, my then husband and Katrina's then boyfriend, now husband, Megan actually said to some people who were much smarter than we are, she said to Jonah and to my husband Ellie, you two should meet up because for some work stuff. And then Ellie and Jonah started working together at this small company. And it was then a video that they were making for the small company that was a fake dinner party where we met, and we actually were playing the roles of people, of old friends at this
who'd known each other.
At this fake dinner party. And I remember feeling really nervous that the fake dinner party was happening, and I was going to meet this kind of mythical creature, Katrina. And
we must have talked about writing a little bit, something. There was some seed of something. Well, because Jessica wrote me an email right afterwards and said...
I did?
Yeah, it was really nice. He said, I was looking back to remember how all of this happened. And the email was something like, I just wanted to steal you away and talk to you for 1,000,000 years. And I was like, oh, that's so nice.
That sounds like something I say.
Yeah. It does sound like you.
And it sounds like something I probably felt. Just that initial connection.
Yeah.
So then did we
I think we sort of like tried to meet up and our calendars didn't really sync up, and then way later, at the end of the year, there was like the company holiday party, and that was the second time that we had seen each other, I think, and that was like 7 months later.
That's right.
And then again, we like got together, we like ate, I remember eating this fish in parchment paper, it was super beautiful, and then we sat there and we ignored everyone else at the party and just
we're rude. Okay.
So,
and it was at that point, actually, where you sent me something.
Yeah, I had been working on this piece that was really deeply personal and about really difficult things, and you told me to go ahead and send it to you, which was like such a leap of faith,
right?
To have met this person twice and be like, here is my heart and soul. And it wasn't a new draft. I think that's important. Like, it wasn't a new draft. It was a draft that I had done a lot of work on, and I felt like it was ready to be seen by someone. But at that point, Megan, I think, was the only person who had seen it. And I gave it to Jessica.
You emailed it to me.
I emailed it.
This is the part where I get really uncomfortable and guilty feeling. Okay, so here's what happened, friends. To set the scene, this was the time I was working on my first book at the time. I was basically failing to write my first book. I was writing and just it wasn't good, and it wasn't the book. And I was super stressed out about that because I had a contract and a deadline. And I remember that I was sitting at my computer one day, and I usually turn off my email and my internet when I'm working, but it was before I had done that. The email comes in, and before I went offline, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to open this and just give this a quick read. It's this piece about loss, about deep loss, the worst thing. I think the title was The Worst Thing or something like that.
It was at that point. Yeah.
And I started reading what turned out to be just one of the finest, most beautiful, most skillfully crafted pieces of writing that I had ever read.
So nice.
And I was sitting there just completely swallowed up by Katrina's words and her story, and with tears streaming down my face, like not only because, of course, the subject itself, I mean, the profound loss was so moving, but also because of where I was in my state of writing, which is to say failing. It was such an inspiration. It was just really just what I needed to see writing that was doing that. It was this golden reminder at a time when I needed it most, that, oh, wait a minute, writing can do this, words can do this. Jessica, keep going. And I remember I went into the other room where, I don't know if it was a weekend or Ellie was working from home, and I just said, Katrina, and I told him, specifically some of the things that were just so profoundly amazing about this piece. And then, I did just the perfectly natural thing when one is just so overcome with, I suppose overcome is the right word. I didn't respond. For months, I didn't respond.
6 months?
Something like that.
Yeah. And it was a very, I think that, obviously we're where we are, and it was such a strange and difficult thing, right, to have made myself so vulnerable by giving this to kind of a stranger, right? We had met 2 times. Yeah. And to think, well, of course she hates it. Like, of course she must, it must be very bad. And that's where I think it's really interesting, right? Because as writers, we're constantly putting ourselves out there to editors, to agents, to other people, and you don't ever know why someone's not responding. Like, there's not a way of understanding, like, and now, of course, I know what happened.
That's a wonderful lesson. On the other hand, that was disgusting behavior, and I'm not even cured of it. I just, maybe you're even watching, person who you know who you are, I just did the same thing to someone who sent me her manuscript and didn't respond, and then finally when I did, she was like, oh, I just thought you hated it. So, well, let me tell you on my end then what was happening for me. And this, by the way, is not an excuse. This is like what I must not do any longer. It was really the perfect example of, the what's the expression? The the perfect getting in the way of the good, or
the
enemy of the good.
Yeah.
That's going to be on my tombstone because I'm queen of that. I'm trying to recover from that. What happened was I felt like I had so much to say in response to this piece. And I wanted to say it just right, especially because I was so floored by the talent of this woman and her ability, of course, with many, many drafts, to say this thing in this piece. And I just kind of kept waiting for the moment to be able to respond with the kind of detail that I wanted to. And of course, the reason why this is such horrible behavior and why I'm trying so hard to curb it is because it makes it totally about me, the responder. So I guess, Katrina gave some advice to people who have sent out your work. It's not necessarily that somebody hates it. In fact, maybe they love it. Although if you send me your work and I respond right away, it's not because I hate it. Oh, God.
You're really
but anyway, my advice to people in my position who, want to respond to people who send work, I think, it really, it's this totally egocentric thing when I thought, I want to make sure that I'm telling her exactly how I feel. I want her to know that I'm an A+ reader and an A+ responder, and it's not about that. It's really about the person this writer who sent me her work, and I needed to kind of get there to just even say. I mean, at the very least, you would have loved if I had said, even in general terms, I love this. I'm so moved by this. I can't wait to discuss this with you. Let's set a date. Which would have taken me 2 seconds.
But the truth is that then what happened was I ran into you at the office. Where the guys
6 months later.
And she like rushed out into the hallway in very typical, for people who know Jessica Fector fashion, like grabbed me by my arms and was like, that piece, and like it was all recovered because I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, you're very generous. Yeah.
I don't. Well, okay. Anyway, we don't need to go so much into
yes. How I should be arrested. Great. So then there we were, and we
started meeting. We started meeting, like.
Oh, right, because at that point I said, not only your piece is amazing, but help me. Can you help me? I am trying to write this book. It's not working out. I need some help. I after reading Katrina's piece, I had this sense of, okay, I trust this voice. I trust this writer's voice so much. I have this sense that she has a really, really smart gut about what works and what doesn't. And I feel like maybe she could help me. This was also, meanwhile, I was having phone calls with Megan and crying to her and her saying, I bet Katrina could help you, so we did. We started to meet.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, right. I mean, we were meeting weekly, and we were saying like, okay, we were trying to figure out what are the things that you should look for in a writing partner, and trying to figure out how to be like very scientific about this.
Right.
And that
constructive,
was our first,
yes.
Right. First criterion.
Right. The first criterion for me in finding that I would say, if you would ask me, how do I find a writing partner? What do I look for? I would say it's really important to find someone whose voice you love. It doesn't need to be a voice that you're aspiring to. Katrina's writing, I think, is very different from mine. But a voice that you love, that you trust. You know that feeling when you're watching a performer or you're reading something and you get that kind of uncomfortable feeling in your stomach? Is that only me? You know that feeling where you're like a little concerned about the performer or the writer?
Oh yeah.
And you're just sort of like,
like, will it be good?
But like, are they gonna
fail?
That to me, I hate that feeling. It makes me feel sick. And I love the feeling of being taken care of as an audience member, whether I'm reading or watching a performance, where I just feel like they've got this, they've got me. And I think when you find that in someone you're reading, that is, and that means that you both love their voice and that you trust their voice. That is, I think, really a number one quality that you want to find in a writing partner.
Yeah, and I think that for me, the connection that I really had with Jessica was feeling that she loved the work, of course, but there are people who will love your work. But Jessica loved the work and was able to articulate with such detail why she loved it, what was working about the writing, and what was like really not working, and to articulate it in a way that gave me an entire roadmap of what I needed to do for the piece, and has continued in all of our meetings to give me these roadmaps where I go home and I know the questions that I need to keep struggling with. And so that ability, so that I feel like that's number 2, right? The ability to articulate not only why you love something, but why you really think something isn't
To
working.
give feedback with precision. And
Yeah,
really to kind of, to
feedback with
throw out the notion of, that whole thing of, here's how you give feedback. You say something good, then you say
like the
something
shit
bad, then you
sandwich.
say something...
Have you ever heard that? Like they say something good, and you say something bad, and then you say something good.
Right.
Sandwich.
To throw out really, for me anyway, do not eat any shit. But to throw out any notion of, okay, how am I going to say this so that it doesn't hurt her feelings? How am I to throw that away? Because that's the thing about when you're in kind of this ideal writing partner relationship, you're in the service not of the other person, but of the other person's writing.
Yeah.
And that is what is this incredible thing to me. So the question for me as I was writing feedback, and just to say nuts and bolts how we did this, we would send each other drafts in Microsoft Word, and then we would do comments. Just
and then we would also, huge amounts of comments, and then we would also say, do not read them until our meeting. So we were not allowed to look at the comments beforehand, which was really helpful actually, because then we would sit down, and we'll go into more how our weeks worked and
in future
exactly
episodes. But it was a few days before we would send 30 pages, whoever's whoever's turn it was that week, and then just voluminous marginalia, and then send back, and then we review it together.
Right, and then long 3-hour conversations in coffee shops with a fair amount of crying. There's a fair.
There was some crying. We didn't always cry. She didn't always cry.
Okay.
Sorry, one other thing. When you mentioned the roadmaps, kind of leaving with a set of roadmaps. To me too, I just want to mention this one important thing, which was this note card that I had taped to my computer. It was a docking station when I was writing, that said, "Katrina will tell you." This was a really important thing for me because I'm a what would I call it, a micro drafter. I do drafts where I do a whole thing and another one, but mostly I write a sentence, then I rewrite the sentence, and then I rewrite the sentence, then I rewrite the sentence, and then I write an opening paragraph, and I do another opening. I do so much of that sometimes is productive, and sometimes is just really just kind of riffing and spinning my wheels, and I need to commit. I need to finish the sentence, literally and metaphorically, just finish the thought. And because going back to that notion of trust, I just trusted Katrina so thoroughly, not to give me the answer of what I needed to do, but to tell me, oh yeah, keep going with that, or mm-mm. Yeah. All I needed was that trust, and it allowed me to keep going, knowing that Thursday or whatever days we were meeting back then, I would sit down with somebody who would give me the go-ahead, or so that was really helpful.
No, I'm wondering, because we have these 2 other things that we wanted to talk about, but we're also getting a bit long. I think.
We are getting long.
So I feel let's save them for next time.
Okay, that sounds good.
Because we have these 2, right? These 2 secret other criteria for finding a writing partner. What if we just save that for Wednesday at the same time?
Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And we're going to be on Katrina's Facebook page. We'll tell you that in a second. Just one thing. Yeah, you know what? Let's make that episode part 2.
Part 2, okay. So the next one will be the origin story and finding your amazing writing partner, part 2.
Okay, so but before, so we're gonna wrap up that first part now. And we're gonna make that a part 2. But we should take these questions.
Oh, there are questions.
There's some questions, and we should also do our.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
We'll end
with
that.
Okay. We're as you can see, we're kind of
figuring
things out, and thank you for being here with us. And we're figuring out, I think, as we go, also an appropriate length for all of this.
Yeah.
So
let us know.
Let us know. Tell us what works. Tell us what doesn't.
Practice your
practice your precise feedback, and please tell us what's working and what's not. Okay. So looking at these. Comments. So first we have Natalia.
Hi, Natalia.
Who says this conversation of process and feedback applies to all creative work. That's a friend of Katrina's, right? Yeah.
And she's a sculptor. She's amazing. She does art installations on gigantic scales.
Wow.
And so and we talk a lot about process.
I would actually love to hear those of you who are out there who are not writers, I mean certainly writers, but also working in other media, how this applies to your work. Yeah. And that would be really fascinating for me to learn.
That conversation I think is going to be really cool, to be able to ask you guys stuff too, so you can tell us things, you know, later in the comments.
Yeah, and maybe that's a future episode if you're interested too. Just this idea of how creativity is fluid, and how, you know, as writers we draw inspiration not just from what we read, but from what we listen to and what we see. Emmy writes, I'm totally ignorant of writing style, process, etc. Exclamation point. Are writing partners a thing, or is this something you guys made up? If it's a thing, do you draw inspiration from other writing partners at all? I do have a response, but it's a little, do you? I
don't know. My response is that it's like, there are like critique groups, which I think is something really, really different. That I've kind of dipped my toe in, and it hasn't been the right fit for me. Right. I don't know. There's not something that I know that Jonah was incredibly relieved when I got a writing partner, because he's not a writer, and he was like, I don't know, it's good. I don't know, I don't like this part. I'm like, why don't you like it? Why?
Well, a couple things. I'm going to dip briefly into something that we'll go into more next time. I think, so I had the experience one time. I took one writing class in graduate school. And it was a creative nonfiction class, a wonderful experience where I think in a writing group like that, it ends up being that you find 2 or 3 people. If my friend Eric Calderwood is out there, he was like my A+ number 1 person, and you develop an outside relationship where you're doing stuff, but you know, people are busy. You know, especially, and I think artists, we don't have limits, so our work kind of just bleeds into everything, and it's really hard, if not impossible, I guess until now, for me anyway, to really devote the time. And I think that what's really special about the partnership that we have developed, it's this mutual investment in each other's work to the point where I care about and think about Katrina's work like almost as much as I do my own, and we're going to talk about that more next time. I know
that one's a really
it's a big one. It's a teaser, and that's a big one. There's a lot to say there.
And I just realized that, of course, like Megan Metcalf has been an amazing person she did a lot of the drafting of that first piece before I saw it. We never were physically in the same place. The physically being in the same place has been really incredible for us.
Yes,
I feel like.
Yeah, you know, this was this amazing thing. Our husbands worked for the same company. When the company moved to San Francisco, my one colleague moved too. Just one more specific response to Emmy about the writing partners thing. The model that I have explained to you before that this reminds me of is in traditional Jewish Talmudic learning, text study, is a relationship called the chavruta, which comes from the root chaver, which means friend. And the kind of intellectual and creative intimacy that goes on when you're studying a text, and the kind of text that has layers and layers and layers of commentary on top of it. That is the only other thing that I can think of that is similar to what we have
here. We talked about that. I forgot. That's really lovely.
Jonah says, he was just quoting
us. Look at us.
You're in the service not of the other person, but of the other person's writing.
That's so lovely.
Amen.
I like that.
And Jude Kennan was my French teacher in high school.
Bonjour.
And she says, hi Jessica, I am so enjoying watching this presentation today. I have loved following your well-deserved successes. I am wondering when we might expect your next book, and also if there is any talk of Stir becoming a film. Let's see, my editor and agent would also like to know when they can expect my next book. I will say that the paperback tour of this book, Stir, that came out last year is coming to a close, and I'm looking forward to diving deep into my next project very soon. It's funny, I love that you asked, but I think it was Lin-Manuel Miranda who tweeted something recently who said that there should be an app for artists that your cell phone goes off when somebody asks you, so what's next for you?
Excuse me, I have to take this call.
Yes.
That's good. I like that.
And Stir has not been optioned for film rights, I'm sorry to say.
But if there's any of you out there who want me to play Jessica in the film Stir, no?
I would love that. You know, my husband Ellie. My husband Ellie wants Padma Lakshmi to play me, and so that he can play himself.
Padma, if you're out there,
because we look so much alike.
Amazing.
Okay, finally, we want to end.
Yeah.
Every episode with a segment that we are calling one awesome thing.
One awesome thing.
We need a one awesome thing. Where we're each going to share one awesome thing that is inspiring us or that we're into digging right now in our lives.
Go.
Okay. The one awesome thing that I would like to share today is a podcast that I love. It's called How to Be Amazing by Michael Ian Black, who also has a book that just came out that you should check out. I should say that we got this idea to have this one thing to share from his podcast. He does this as part of a series of questions at the end. I love it because I want to know how to be amazing. And what he does, thank you, you're amazing. And what he does is he interviews a different person each week. Elizabeth Gilbert, I just mentioned Lin-Manuel Miranda. Megan Mullally is actually one of my favorite ones that he's done. Also, oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Carl Tanner, the opera singer who was a bounty hunter and then a truck driver and then an amazing opera singer.
David Sedaris one.
David Sedaris, yeah. So he interviews these people and he just asks the questions that we all would love to ask if we sat down with these people. And he doesn't try to play it cool, you know. He's just really earnest and also really funny. I finish listening to all of those podcasts feeling like, I'm gonna go make something. And I should say also about this Megan Mullally episode, I didn't know until I listened to this episode that she is real life married to Nick Offerman. They have that funny bit as the husband and ex-wife in Parks and Recreation, but they're real life married. And so then How to Be Amazing, the podcast. Oh my gosh, why?
Because it's at half an hour. Half an hour
they cut you? I didn't know. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Cool. So, How to Be Amazing. Note to self, I want Manoush Samurati to make a podcast every day. It's fantastic. It's about tech and being human. I've been thinking a lot about tech and writing a lot about tech in our lives, so I've been into that.
What is it called?
Note to Self.
Note to Self.
So those are our two podcasts. Okay. And then we are going to do this again on Wednesday because we want to see what day, what time works. We're doing it 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern. And apparently there's a subscribe button. I don't know where it is. You can push it and it'll tell you when we're live. Subscribe button. It's right here. It's on my notes. And the next one we're going to do is going to be part 2 of this, which we just decided. We're going to be hosting it over on my Facebook profile, facebook.com/Katrina Gold Saito. Mm-hmm. We are going to try to compile this all in a Tumblr, which is livelit, livelit.tumblr.com. And you can follow us on Twitter at live_lit.
Yes. On our site, we're going to have some bonus material. That first video from when we were fake friends is up there. This great Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally interview that I found after listening to How to Be Amazing. Katrina's podcast, what was it called? I mean, the one you recommended.
Note to Self.
Note to Self, the podcast I recommend, How to Be Amazing. I think that's it. I had no idea they cut off at half an hour.
Okay. We love you guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. All right, I'm going to turn it off.
Okay. Oh, you can feel that face going really, really close.